Okay, so let me provide a little bit of guidance. So in this part of the competition, you're taking on a fictional business identity and assigning similarly a fictional identity to the judges. I'm sorry. So let's make sure everybody knows who you are, not what school you go to. You have 25 minutes to describe the legal, financial, and ethical dimensions of the problem you've discovered, and to recommend solutions that pass muster on all three counts. During this time, we will not interrupt you. When you're finished, we'll spend the next 10 or 15 minutes asking you questions in our character, in role, and we'll all stop, take a deep breath, and we'll give you some feedback.
Sounds lovely.
So whenever you're ready, you may begin.
All right, we're good. All right. Hello, Nike Board of Directors. Thank you for having us this morning. My name is Carly. These are my incredible colleagues, Yael, Samarth, Denise, and Ambuja, and we are Team Nike Next. We have a proposal that we strongly believe will revolutionize Nike and change the world, one touchdown at a time. So with that, we present to you Beyond the Swoosh, turning sustainability promises into purposeful progress. So for some context, Nike has taken some steps towards sustainability. In 2019, we launched our Move to Zero campaign, which set the long-term ambitious goal of striving towards 0% carbon emissions and 0% waste. We set specific 2025 targets, so this year. So those are to increase our use of environmentally preferred materials, to cut down on 500,000 less tons of greenhouse gas emissions. It includes diverting 100% of our waste from our landfills and our extended supply chains and recycling 80% of that waste back into Nike products, and using 25% less fresh water per kilogram in textile processes.
While targets are great, we are still dropping the ball towards sustainability as a company when we do not hit those targets. So, while we do have pledges to have recyclable material in our apparels and have a general Move to Zero campaign, we can see through lawsuits that that's not what is actually happening. Look at this article, as a Missouri plaintiff says that 90% of the recyclable material that we advertise as a company isn't even recyclable. And in fact, when we do put in recyclable materials, sometimes it tends to be environmentally harmful. That's dropping the ball.
Right. With that, part of the campaign came the launch of our sustainability line, Nike Forward. This line featured our needle punch technology on our iconic gray Nike sweatshirt. And so rather than the traditional multi-step creation cycle of spinning yarn, knitting, cutting, sewing, etc., this turns fiber directly into fabric by these little needles punching into the fibers. Yeah.
So the second way that we tend to be dropping the ball is we actually have discontinued the Nike Forward line. And we can see this in two key ways. First, when you look at the website, it hasn't been updated since 2022. And second, when it comes to the links to clothing in the websites, we're linking to non-sustainable apparel.
Yeah, additionally, we have developed some internal sustainability initiatives. We set 29 corporate targets to drive our purpose-driven efforts between 2020 and 2025, focused in four main areas: DEI, responsible supply chains, powering the future of youth sport, and protecting our planet.
But once again, we're dropping the ball because our internal sustainable initiatives are coated in hypocrisy, which we can see through this article. Even though we are pledging to shrink carbon, we're cutting the workforce that works on those initiatives, and we've lost 30% of employees where their primary workflow and work stream was sustainability-focused initiatives.
Now, why does Nike dropping the ball in this way matter? Well, we know as a fashion industry as a whole, we produce about 92 million tons of waste annually. Of this, only 15% of these used textiles are actually recycled and turned into something beneficial. This has only been multiplied from 2000 to 2015 as global consumption has doubled because consumers are demanding more products that are cheaper made. In order to answer this, our companies contributed 4,166 metric tons of waste at its headquarters just this last year. And astonishingly, even though Nike claims to have moved to zero campaigns and be cutting or increasing sustainability in these ways, That metric ton waste has only increased 10% in the last year. Now, we talk about these statistics and we bring up these numbers, but sometimes we don't really understand the real life implications of this. Just one example is Kintamonto Market in Ghana. 15 million garments are dumped here weekly, so much that they've had to turn it into a market. Can they use these textile wastes and resell them? Even though they've been innovative in this way and have tried to reduce these literal landfills of waste, they can only sell 20% of what is put there, which means 12 million garments accumulate there weekly. Our argument is that Nike, as a company, has an obligation to just do the right thing. We have these targets for sustainability. We don't necessarily look at the real life implications, but when we do, we see that like Nike as a corporation should just be contributing to creating responsible consumption and responsible production, which aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 12. We've just talked about why sustainability should shape Nike's ethics, but sustainability also should shape Nike's profits because it already shapes the athleisure market. Nike's three biggest competitors, Adidas, Under Armour, and Puma, have all experienced an average increase in market share because they've been innovative. And some of the ways that they've been innovative include sustainability practices over the last few years since 2022. For example, Adidas is committed to ending plastic waste by reducing 70% of plastic waste in its products just this last year. Under Armour also unveiled a new testing method to lower fiber shredding and microplastics, and it's been successful by reducing this number by 75%. Puma in 2022 and since has sourced 100% renewable energy for all levels of its production. And we've seen that through these processes, they've increased their market share by an average of 16% across all three. Now let's look at where Nike's been the last few years. Our stock has plummeted. We've faced lawsuits, like Samarth mentioned. We faced a line that has literally been continued, and we've never talked about it. We've faced an overall lack of innovation. In October 2021, we hit a peak right here. But since then, and over the last 4 years, our share has absolutely plummeted, and this year our expected sales are still expected to be down by 45%. This leads us as Nike Next to believe that encouraging responsible behavior through innovation is the most sustainable way for us to grow as a company. Which leads us to our key question. How can Nike leverage sustainability as a competitive advantage to drive consumer demand for eco-friendly apparel and increase profitability?
So now onto our agenda for today's presentation. We will begin by introducing our executive summary, providing an analysis of our target market, our 3 recommendations, the possible risk factors associated with our line, our implementation strategy, our conclusion, and the final call to action. So now we can begin by tackling the problem at hand. With Nike Next, we aim to encourage sustainable consumer behavior by 1, launching the sustainable jersey line, 2, introducing the Nike Digital Product Passport, and finally, implementing the Nike Next app integration.
The first step in encouraging sustainable behavior is by launching our sustainable jersey line. College football is America. 42% of Americans identify as college football fans. Alumni, parents, students come together alike to cheer on their alma maters. Rivalries are passed on from generation to generation. For example, the Ohio State Buckeyes and the University of Michigan Wolverines. College football also has a lot of school spirit and tradition. Student sections surpass capacity, with students organizing events such as tailgates and also cheering on their teams on the stands and singing their fight songs. College football has high TV viewership. National championship football games average 22 million views. Parents, grandparents feel connected and identified with their teams. And not only that, but we dominate in college football. Currently, we sponsor 79 out of 130 Division I FBS schools and 17 out of 25 top collegiate football teams in the country. And we have a 60% hold on the Power 5 conferences, from what you can see here. Our dominance in sponsorships highlights our brand's deep entrenchment in the broader culture of college football. Our image is expected and is expected in the traditions, the aesthetics, and the identity of college football here in America. And the beauty of it all is that college football fans are of all ages, starting at the age of 18 years old. And these consumers spend money on collegiate branded gear. As you can see, it was up 3.83% in 2024.
So you may be asking yourselves, what does any of this have to do with sustainability? And we want to show you exactly how we can turn this opportunistic market to long-term sustainable impact. In phase 1 of our plan of execution, we want to launch the Nike Next jersey product lines to the top collegiate programs, football collegiate programs of the country. This includes the University of Georgia, the University of Oregon, and Ohio State University, all of which representing some of the biggest contractors for Nike today. So what you're seeing now are our jersey mock-ups for the Nike Next line. And as you may notice, they feature very similar designs from the ones that we've had in previous seasons. This is completely intentional because our goal as a brand is to gradually foster sustainable and responsible consumer behavior without compromising our look or brand identity. What truly distinguishes these jerseys are what they are made out of. These jerseys are made out of 100% recycled polyester, and we want to leverage that technology that we've already had. In Europe, we've implemented this technology in the production of Premier League jerseys, which would allow us to save an additional research and development costs and faster entry into the market. But this is only part of the story. We want to show you who wears it. So these are our next athletes, and they feature some of the influential top athletes of today. We have Malaki Starks, who is the defensive back at the University of Georgia, Jordan James, who is the running back at the University of Oregon, and Jeremiah Smith, who is the wide receiver at Ohio State University. So this is a preview of our advertising campaign featuring some of the athletes that I had just mentioned. We handpicked these athletes because they represent inspiration, excellence, and most importantly, influence. And having them represent our line sends a powerful message to our audience.
Like Yael and Denise have mentioned, we have this incredible target market of college football fans. Now, the average college football fan might not care about sustainability, but our goal as Nike Next is to turn these average college football fans who just want to buy a jersey into responsible consumers who continue to buy Nike Next merchandise. This is where the digital product passport comes into play. Now, what is a digital product passport? It is a QR-based interactive feature that we would include on the tag of all Nike Next sustainable purchases that educates consumers on their purchase's environmental impact, tracks lifetime sustainability metrics, and would provide exclusive care instructions specific to sustainable materials. Here on the left, you can see a mock-up of what this digital product passport would look like. It shows you the exact jersey you've bought. It tells you that it's made out of breathable polyester and intricate stitch work. It tells you where it's been resourced. Our recycled polyester comes from an internal Nike grind facility in Vietnam. But most importantly, what I want to draw your attention to is this impact section. This is what builds emotional connection for our consumers to buy into sustainability. It tells you just by purchasing one jersey, you've saved this amount of water, or you've saved this amount of electricity, or you've offset this much carbon. Not only that, but digital product passports pull Nike ahead. So we know that in the European Union, digital product passports will be mandated purely for the reason of increasing traceability. However, we want to get ahead of this curve by including a digital product passport that not only shows you where our materials come from, but also shows you the impact you leave just by purchasing a Nike Next sustainable jersey. No other athleisure companies have active traceability and gamification in the way the Nike Next digital product passport would create. So like I mentioned earlier, a lack of innovation has really put Nike behind stock-wise and market share-wise. Adidas, Puma, and Under Armour have great ways of sustainable innovation, but they've done nothing like the digital product passport. Additionally, only luxury brands actively utilize digital product passports, and they've been received with high consumer engagement. Coach, Ralph Lauren, and Balenciaga are just a few examples of this. Now, how would we integrate our jerseys? So our digital product passports would be mocked up just in the fashion I showed you earlier, and they would be included on the back tag of our Nike Next jerseys. What does this do? It creates consumer buy-in. It serves as a reinforcement for a consumer who cares about sustainability by showing you the active impact you're leaving. But more importantly, it bridges the gap between responsible consumption and responsible action for a consumer who might not actually care about sustainability when they're initially purchasing that jersey. Additionally, as Samartha and Carly are about to touch on, our digital product passports are linked to our Nike app. This means that a responsible purchase, once you scan the digital product passport, will take you to the Nike app, increasing the amount of signups, which is a critical part of our incoming marketing campaign.
So that brings us to our third and final recommendation, launching the Nike Next app integration. So this plan has 3 steps. Yael covered our university partnerships, where we're going to partner with the nation's top college football programs and Nike-affiliated universities to launch these sustainable jerseys. She also explained our Next athlete sponsorships, where we're going to partner with the top athletes at these schools who already have pretty large fan bases to advertise these jerseys, similarly to how Nike already does with famous celebrities and athletes. But the last step is our Scan, Score, and Sustain challenge. This plan is all about keeping consumers shopping sustainably through community engagement and exclusive perks. So like Anuja explained, we created this QR code scanning system with our digital product passports. So when you scan the QR code, you essentially become a Nike sustainability community. You're able to track your own sustainability impact, like the amount of water you saved, for example, by buying the jersey. And you're also able to see where you stand among other members, creating a social leaderboard. This will make users want to rise in their sustainability rank, compete with their friends, and it will overall encourage greener choices. Being a part of this community also comes with some exclusive perks. You will gain exclusive access to early releases, you'll get exclusive discounts on other sustainably made apparel, and you'll also receive some product care tips on specific sustainable materials, since they're treated a little bit differently. So not only does this keep consumers shopping sustainably, but it also gives Nike a chance to gain some really valuable consumer feedback. Through this app, users will be encouraged to submit product suggestions and sustainability feedback, and sort of acting like a social media, we'll be able to submit real-time surveys and polls to gauge consumer interest on future sustainability initiatives. So this will make our consumers feel heard, and it'll strengthen our brand trust.
Carly just did a great job explaining our integration plan. What I want to do is visually show you a key example of how this would work inside the Nike app. So here we have a mock-up of the Nike app account page, where you would have your account, you would have your orders, your inbox, and most importantly, your Nike member rewards. So, assuming that you're buying from the Nike Next line and you're interacting with the DPP, you get rewards. And that manifests in 2 key ways. First, through your Nike Next Rewards leadership table, which really gamifies the whole process, and through the exclusive access to other apparel that is made with sustainable materials. Now, let's talk about the money. We're going to talk about some key financials, but in order to understand the financials, we have to take a step back and understand the assumptions that we are working under. So, there are 4 key aspects that we need to talk through the assumptions for. First is the price. Nike prices college football jerseys at $120 on average. The second thing that we have to talk about is the production costs. When it comes to how we came up with the number for the cost of production, we took the average price to produce a jersey, and then we also marked it up because we're going to be using sustainable materials, and then we multiplied that times the total amount of jerseys that would be in distribution, whether that's jerseys given to the actual college football teams or distributed through the students, whether that's college bookstores, the Nike website, or Nike authorized distributors. Then we took the account for a cost with seasonal Next athlete sponsorships. And we found this number by taking the average college athlete sponsorship deal. And finally, we looked at DPP integration, where we looked to the past of past integrations at other companies and used that as a benchmark on how we looked for that cost. Now, let's see what the results of our financials were using those key assumptions. We had production costs, DPP integration costs, and seasonal Next athlete sponsorship costs, which gets us to a total cost of $9,250,880. That's a lot. But we'll be making that back with revenue. So when it comes to the price and the quantity, as I said, the price is $120. So the quantity that we'd have to break even at is 77,091. But we don't want to just break even, right? We want to make profit. Luckily, we can, because sales forecasts for championship college football teams in the past have been at selling 100,000 jerseys. And all of the universities that we're partnering with have championship prospects. They're big college football teams. If you said that Ohio State doesn't have a chance at a championship, you must be a Michigan fan. But the reality is that they do. So that's why we'll be making a profit.
So through this plan, we are going to raise awareness about sustainability and what Nike is doing to advance it by using our next athletes to champion our jerseys. We're going to drive engagement by encouraging some friendly community competition with our social challenges, and we're going to build our brand loyalty by rewarding these sustainable purchases with exclusive experiences.
While all this sounds amazing, it's important to take into account the risks and mitigations from this project. We can't kick this out of the table. We may have lower than expected returns on Nike Next campaigns, but with a phased rollout strategy to the top collegiate programs in the United States, the most popular, the biggest, the ones with championship prospects, like my colleague mentioned, we can help mitigate that. Additionally, our offering incentives through the DPP integration, we can mitigate the fact that we can offer by offering exclusive drops and offering a community where you can track your sustainability progress. We can get consumers to buy into the app and the project. There may be some consumer skepticism because, as my colleagues had mentioned, we have been hit with a lot of greenwashing claims, lawsuits, and whatnot. But that's why we have the DPP. The DPP will help us be as transparent as possible with our customers by letting them know what materials are in this jersey and how are they impacting the planet.
Over the last 25 minutes or so, we've been over a lot about our key recommendations. Just for us to visualize what this rollout would actually look like, let's take a look at a brief roadmap of what Q1 and Q4 would look like, assuming we start this project in January of 2026. Now, in Q1, we would focus on branding. So that's what my colleague Yael mentioned. The next athlete sponsorships, the creation of those marketing campaigns, but most importantly, the creation of the actual Nike Next jersey for our top 3 universities, UGA, Ohio State, and the University of Oregon. Then in Q2, we would pilot Nike Next at these 3 flagship universities. So this would be the digital product passport integration at the back of those jerseys, but also having these jerseys available at flagship university stores. So that's stadium stores, bookstores, on-campus retail. Then in Q3, we would scale our digital engagement. This is what Samarth and Carly touched on, the connection of the digital product passport to the Nike app and the gamification of the scan, score, and sustain challenge. Then in Q4, we would hopefully, if all goes well, have a national rollout with full Nike.com in-store and stadium activation of these jerseys across our 3 flagship universities.
In conclusion, we have an ethical responsibility to just do the right thing. We need to innovate because as a company, we have to grow in a more sustainable way. What's next? Nike Next. And we walk you through that in 3 key ways, talking about our sustainable jersey line, then explaining our digital product passport, and finally, talking about how we can integrate that all together with the Nike app. As a company, we can't drop the ball anymore. Forward is the only way, and that's Nike Next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, our board has had more presentations than I can count. And one of them showed that football players at Ohio State can barely read. So how will they participate in this passport program? Especially since they don't physically buy the jersey. It's given to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So the digital product passport is really intended for the consumer, not necessarily the football player. So the Next Athlete Sponsorship Program, where we as Nike give these college football teams our jersey, is more so for the marketing campaign. So you'll see that Malachi Barton is wearing a jersey that was sustainably made, which engages consumers and in then buying the jersey with the digital product passport available.
To sort of add on to what Ambuja is saying, also the key with targeting these college football players is that they're not appealing just to the sustainable consumers. They're appealing to all consumers who are interested in football, and then it becomes on us to put out the sustainable apparel that drives that responsible consumerism.
And I'll just add, I think what really drives Nike's dominance on the college football market is our contracts. You know, like we do send these universities jerseys for their football teams. We do have licensed merchandising contracts that on Yael's slide, I believe, are within the span of the next 5 years to the next 15 years. So we as a company want to choose to do the right thing and produce more sustainably made jerseys, with the outcome being that they're sent to these schools, and that is the only jersey options these schools have.
Sure.
I love this. I really thought it was going to be preachy because we started out and we know the reputation and we didn't go there at all. I'm so happy. And it's really a great idea. And I really like the graphic where it moved the football.
Yeah, we're really proud of that.
Yeah. My concern is, and it's really smart to start with the most profitable profit in our line. I mean, that's so there's room to be able to have this work. But I'm now using your app and I'm tracking myself, and I'm also buying other stuff which unfortunately isn't made with this new material, and we're like documenting how bad we are on the other stuff. What do we do about that?
That's a great point. I'm gonna take you back to the app integration slide. I know it's quite small on this screen, but the exclusive access materials are some percentage sustainably made. So that ranges anywhere from like 25% all the way up to 75 or 100%. So it is, like you have a great point, Nike Forward was a complete failure, but these are not Nike Forward products that have been discontinued. They are still sustainably made materials with some percentage of recycled polyester or recycled cotton.
Okay.
Typically at an Ohio State-Michigan football game, there'll be roughly 100,000 people. How many of those fans do you think are actually buying the Nike products that you're promoting?
I can take this question. So when it comes to the percentage of fans, I actually do think it's a good amount of them, because the main outfit that you wear to a college football game is the college football jersey. If you were to sit in a Michigan-Ohio game, for example, obviously on the Ohio State side, because we're partnering with them, you'd see just a sea of Ohio State jerseys, and that would be the vast majority. Obviously, there are people who don't wear jerseys, that's true, but that's why we're partnering with multiple universities to do this phased rollout. So that way, across the 3 universities, we can get to that 100K plus jersey sales so that we can make profit.
Also, additionally, based on our research, a average of 2,000 to 100,000 jerseys are actually sold at these big top collegiate football programs. So that's how we know, if they're buying into the jerseys, well, okay, they're buying into the jerseys that are not made out of 100% recycled polyester. Well, they kind of don't once we provide them with a 100% recycled polyester jersey, okay, well, they're just gonna have to, buy it, because it's part of the.
Does the energy used to track and maintain all the information in the passport outweigh the savings from switching the fabric?
That's a great question. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. That being said, I think the greater takeaway from the inclusion of the digital product passport is the fact that we are switching consumers who don't really care about sustainability, whether that's college football fans at these top 3 universities, to actually recognizing these metrics and recognizing the value of these metrics. We do know, however, that the recycled polyester does save a great amount of water. And the caveat is also that the Nike Next app, or the Nike app, does already exist, so that energy is being consumed either way.
Right, and to add on just a little bit, we are taking from materials that already exist. Like Ambuja explained in one of our slides, the amount of waste that we have on this planet could clothe everyone like 3 times. We have an enormous problem with waste. So solely just by not creating new materials, we are saving an enormous amount of energy.
Also, to kind of wrap a bow on this answer, in a sense, we talk about how technologies like the digital product passport are going to be implemented in Europe from a regulation standpoint. And as we can see, trends of regulation often diffuse across the globe. So while we are focused on North America, there is no guarantee in the future that that won't become a regulation at some point. So that means that in a world where we don't have Nike Next, there's a reality that we'll anyway have to pursue DPP technology. But pursuing it in collaboration with Nike Next allows us to make our apparel more sustainable, which is a win towards responsible consumption, which is why I think that we should go with Nike Next.
Jerry? Questions?
I have questions to my fellow board members.
And
We're gonna be forced to-
It's to them, not to
We're gonna be forced to do this anyway. It's not gonna really cost us anything. It could possibly even be a profit center. How could we say no?
We agree.
That's our point, yeah.
Do you have a plan for outreach to all of the other universities that, let's say, play Division I football?
Are you the universities that we're not currently contracted with? Or?
Not those 3.
Oh, not those 3, not their contract.
Honestly, we don't. I think for us, this is a test apparel line, so we want to see how does this test apparel line do in the 3 most popular college football programs. So no, we don't have a plan for that. I think once we roll this out, we can definitely decide on what other universities to implement the plan.
But thinking ahead, in terms of reaching out and connecting with these, if Nike Next goes well, then we have a robust marketing campaign that feature the ads that Yael touched on earlier. So it's not that these universities will be unaware that Nike has made the shift towards sustainable jerseys. And in terms of the actual method of reaching out, it'll be very similar to the way that we will have done with OSU, Oregon, and UGA in terms of sitting down with them and renegotiating a change in our actual licensing contract with them.
So there's a lot of cost that goes into developing this program, tracking the data, distributing the data, updating it. Will all of those costs be added to the cost of the jersey?
So the main costs that are added to the jersey come down to the jersey's production. So that's really the cost to take this technology that we do have that we do use in Europe with Premier League jerseys and adapt that into college football. So that's where that additional cost comes into production. But when you're looking at total cost, the other factors that you mentioned with the DPP and with sponsorships factor into that. But that's accounted for in all of these different sub-costs. So that's why these 2 costs exist, to kind of account for everything that we've talked about in this presentation. It's reflective financials, and that's how we come up with this total cost. And then I've already explained the revenue side on the presentation.
Good. I don't have any additional questions. Do you, Jerry?
I'm fine, thank you.
Take a deep breath.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Feedback time.
Yes.
So in case you couldn't tell, I'm a University of Michigan guy. So I did not take offense. Your presentation skills were just outstanding. The fact that eye contact with everybody, you didn't read anything, you knew your subject matter, and you presented it clearly, concisely, and powerfully. So really well done on that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You could answer all the questions, that says it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, good job.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Is there any feedback?
Like from constructive or anyone else in the room?
Well, I sort of like to summarize any presentation, and you're gonna do them for the rest of your working lives. That there are three parts. Tell them what you're gonna tell them. Tell them. And then tell them what you told them. And you really did that.
Thank you so much.
You brought us into the conversation. It's a complex set of issues. And I came away thinking, I think I understand what they're saying. Which is what this is all about. So, good job.
Thank you so
Thank you very
much.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Also focus, you were really great on, you had to give us the background, you had to give us the negative, you had to tell us that there is worldwide problems with recycling. But so many other presentations, they use so much time, and we already know that. We want the solution, and that's where your time management was really spectacular. So I have nothing negative to say, which is unusual for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Well
much.
done.
Thank you.
Thank you.